Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest Loyalty Leaders Livecast, brought to you by Loyalty Summit, Europe's premier travel loyalty conference held this 5th and 6th of June in London. My name is Ferguson, Vice President of Marketing for Loyalty Summit. And before we begin, I would to remind our viewers and listeners that we are recording this conversation live. So you may hear traffic noises, you might hear sirens, construction, barking dogs, maybe an alien ship will arrive. I might glitch out and freeze up. Harold might, we don't know. But whatever it occurs, Harold, we're just going to roll with it. And now that we've got that disclaimer out of the way, I would like to introduce today as my special guest, Mr. Harold DeProos, partner at Involved and former managing director for Lufthansa's Miles and More program, who we are honored to have as chairperson for Loyalty Summit Europe this year. Welcome to the Loyalty Livecast. I'd love it if you would be able to tell our viewers and listeners a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. Thank you for having me here. And it's also a great honor for me to chair the Loyalty Summit in June. I've been a participant over the past years, and so this is a big step for me, so to say, and I'm really excited about the opportunity. Well, you mentioned my engagement with Miles & More. I worked more than 20 years for Lufthansa Group, the major German airline. And basically, I always say it's like half of it traditional airline management and half of it loyalty. So I took over Miles & More in a phase where it was a little bit, has become a little bit weaker than it used to be. And my job was to make it strong again. And in this period, we also founded the Miles & More subsidiary, the company that today operates the program for Lufthansa. And it was, to be honest, absolutely my most fascinating and biggest project and work that I ever did. And I did a lot of projects because I started in consulting. I worked 6 years in management consulting before joining Lufthansa. And management consulting, going back to the roots, is what I do now. Involved is a boutique consultancy in Germany, located in Munich. We are not able to do everything, as typically consultants claim, but what we really can do is customer centricity management. And here we are, absolutely specialized. And we are the consultancy of your trust if you have a problem around or topic around customer centricity. But let's start the idea today. Today we're talking about the Loyalty Summit, and I'm curious about your questions.
Absolutely. And I thought I would begin with a kind of a sneak preview of the agenda. I know you and I had done some early work together on the agenda outline, and we jointly developed this conference theme that we're using, which includes the phrase beyond loyalty. And I wanted to begin our discussion by asking you about that phrase, beyond loyalty, and what it means to you. To me, it suggests kind of a forward-thinking approach to loyalty marketing. How do you see this concept shaping the future of travel loyalty and the strategies employed by brands to engage with their customers?
Yeah, to me, the two words beyond loyalty simply mean it's more than loyalty. And what do I mean by this? If you look back, I mean, loyalty has been and is a major and huge success story over the past 30 years, or even more than 30 years in travel and mobility. And it had started basically focusing, as the name says, around loyalty. And it has developed in many perspectives. And I'm sure we touch base on this a little later in the interview. But in this context, beyond loyalty, I would say that it's means breaking the silos in the companies, in the airlines, in the hotels, and having not only the silo loyalty standing beside the silo marketing and the silo customer service, but integrating it to provide a good customer experience that contains the product, the services, and the loyalty experience. That's one aspect of beyond loyalty. And the second aspect to me is basically, when we are very honest, we always talked about loyalty is for the customers, but basically what we wanted to do is have the customer buy more of our products, the frequent flyer, for example. better have him 10 times flying than 5, and better have him 20 times flying than 10. So in the end, it is about the commercials of the company, and loyalty has also become a commercial business. And I think a little we left out the customer and the customer needs over time, and it's a good time now to bring customer back into the center of loyalty. And this is basically what I mean beyond loyalty. It's about integrating different functions and services of the company who provide loyalty, and it's about integrating the customer and his needs.
Yes, that makes sense to me. And I understand that you see beyond loyalty as a renewed focus on the customer. And just as a follow-up, I'm curious about, we have a phrase in English, I'm sure you've heard before, that sometimes big is the enemy of great. And at some points now we talk about airlines as being financial institutions that tend to fly planes as kind of a side job because they make so much more money through the credit card partnerships. And I had read recently that the Marriott Bonvoy program, which is a global program now has over 200 million members. Do you think that the size of some of these programs, and certainly there are some smaller, more nimble programs in Europe, but do you see the size of some of these global programs as being in any way an impediment to putting that focus back on the customer?
No, I would not say so. I mean, it could be, if you have overcome a critical size and your processes and all your operations is not as perfect as it should be, then it might be a problem that size turns out to be difficult, but not generally spoken. I think, to be honest, size might even be an advantage because if you think about an airline business, this means more products, more services, a better schedule, etc., which better serves the customer needs. So I don't think that size is by nature a problem, but you have to handle size and you have to handle the complexity that comes with size, and I think that's important.
Yes, and obviously technology is going to be one of the key discussion lanes at the upcoming Loyalty Summit Europe. And to your point, the technologies that we have available to us now, not only the legacy platforms and some of the new emerging platform technologies, but also Web 3.0 and NFT and AI, all of these new tools are coming to the fore. And obviously, having the resources that some of these larger programs and companies do, they might have the ability to maybe really leverage some of these new technologies at scale. So maybe we can talk about some of the key trends and innovations that you anticipate might have the most impact on travel loyalty solutions in the future.
Yeah, sure. I think that's an interesting question because basically, technology and innovation is an enabler, and on the other hand, if you have a different or a new technology, you might be able to do things you've never dreamt of. So there is a kind of a circle, but to me, always the business comes first. So I need to have a use case, and then I need to have a technology that fuels my use case, and then it does work. I mean, think about all the discussions that we had around blockchain. That was the major trend like 3, 4, 5 years ago, and everybody was talking about we do blockchain, but not much happened, right? Then there came some small use cases, and the question, can blockchain help fueling this use case? And then it worked. It never works when you say, I have the technology, what can I do with the technology? It only works if you have the use case, and then you put the technology that enables the use case. So having that, this is my first statement here. The second is typically, and I think here it's also true, we tend to overestimate what we might be able to reach, let's say, in the near future. And we also tend to underestimate what we are able to reach in the midterm or long-term future. So I think we have, with all those technological developments, there are lots of chances for loyalty programs. Let me go a little bit into detail. First of all, and we talked about size, and especially the bigger programs, they are so complex. They are so complex in their structures, they are so complex in their products and the services they offer, and they are so complex in the operation from a customer point of view. So, and if technology can help us get the complexity out, or better say, have the complexity behind the curtain so that nobody sees it, and I have a very simple product for me as a customer on the front end. Great. And I think that the technologies that we have now available might help us there lots. Next thing is it's about integration of typical offline products in the online world. And with all those online products and the integration of mobile technologies, well, we can link and integrate basically physical services with digital offers. Emirates has lots of use cases in this area, and for sure there are other airlines and other hotel companies who work there. So this would be the second part where I see major development. Then I talked about integration, and it's all about integration of products and services, like seamless services. And this must not necessarily mean, if you think about flying, that it's along the customer flying from A to B. But typically, this starts when he gathers information for the flight, when he prepares for the flight, when he buys the flight, when he has all this around the flight, because nobody flies just for fun. He flies from A to B because he wants to be in B. Work, travel, or whatever. He needs hotels, he needs cars, he needs mobility, and integrating different offers into, let's say, one product or product bundle would be a major step forward for the customer. And I'm sure that the new technologies are able to help us there a lot. I mean, think about the discussions that we had along this slogan, will we see the super app? I mean, that's basically exactly what the super app is about. It's not only the app for a frequent flyer program, but an app that combines the frequent flyer program, the credit card, the flying product, the mobility around the flying travel journey, and so on. And I think this would be the next area where we see lots of progress. And the fourth, I guess, is real time. I mean, think about all the retail loyalty programs. You go out the shop, yeah, and the next minute you have on your account the points that are credited because you bought something in the shop. And if you're in the airline world and you think about partner products, at least I know many programs who still state it might take up to several weeks until the partner has credited your miles. So basically, I think real time is also something that is fueled by new innovation and technologies. And basically, the drivers there, besides let's say, the different technological offers, are artificial intelligence. I mean, there is such a huge potential for AI just fueling all those developments. That's one thing. And the other thing is, when loyalty started, all the airlines and all the hotels operated their own programs, and they have become monoliths and very complex. And if you think about changes in development, it took years. And now we are in the phase, and we have the opportunities of modular IT development, and this just brings time. I mean, you can just make and build and create a new use case, and then think about how do I implement it, and you have the technological opportunities to do so. So that's basically, to me, what technology is about and how it can help. It's real time, less complexity, offline, online integration, and the seamless services. And all this fueled by modular development and by artificial intelligence.
Sounds very exciting, and I'm sure we will continue to see some of those use cases come to the fore, and I'm sure we'll even see some of them talked about and perhaps demonstrated at Loyalty Summit. And I know at kind of the intersection of this technology discussion and the focus on the customer is that area of personalization, right? So on the back end, to your point, the complex part that the customer doesn't see, it's collecting the data, laundering the data, breaking down the silos around the data, being able to develop a fuller customer view. And then on the front end, it's the customer having seen experience, getting that the effect of personalization creates that emotional bond. Can you talk a little bit about that? What types of ways brands can use some of these technologies to personalize those experiences and start to deliver some of that emotional connection that customers are seeking?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's basically we could talk for hours about personalization, right?
Right.
It's a huge topic, to be honest. In the end, first of all, to me, when you talk about personalization, you cannot talk only about, let's say, the frequent flyer program of an airline or the loyalty program of a hotel, because the typical customer, he just doesn't separate between those functions of a company. He buys a product, he buys a flight, he buys an overnight stay, yeah, and he wants that all this functions well to his needs. And this means basically that the first prerequisite for personalizing products and services is to understand that you have to look at it holistically and not only from a frequent flyer or loyalty program perspective. That's one thing. The other thing is typically, I mean, personalization. Many companies did something like, for example, if you are in the plane and the screen is on, and then there is your name, welcome on board, Mr. DePros. That's nice. Yeah? But I guess this is not what the typical customer wants to see when he thinks about personalization. Here he wants to have, let's say, a product tailored to his needs. And I think as an industry, we have only started into this logic of personalization. Think about Lufthansa, for example. They are now about to roll out a new an onboard product where you can, at least to certain degrees, personalize your seat and all this offering around the onboard product. And of course, this does not stop in the flight. So you need to basically also personalize. You have to integrate it with a loyalty program. You have to integrate it with marketing. You have to integrate it with customer service and so on to really personalize this product experience for the customer. Or think about, I touched on this a little bit earlier. It's called phygital at Emirates, like the physical and the digital combination of a product that is offered to a flying customer. So basically, I would say personalization, of course, is address me by name, know who I am, etc. That's one part of personalization. But the other, and to me more important part, is what exactly is the product and the service, and when do I need it alongside my flight or my hotel stay. Or, for example, if there is a problem and there is, let's say, something does not work, how is the failure management organized? And all this means to me, I have a personalized product experience when the product functions for me and it fulfills my needs. And this is far beyond the loyalty perspective or the loyalty program perspective only.
Yes, I see. And I think you mentioned that personalization is a much larger topic than the loyalty program. It's about delivering on personalization holistically through every touch point, everywhere the customer's interacting with the brand and interacting with partners even. And I wonder that given the renewed focus on privacy, the importance of zero-party data, first-party data, does that for the organization place a renewed emphasis on the loyalty program, maybe even at a more senior level than it might have been before, because that is a permission-based way to collect that data that then can deliver that level of personalization throughout the organization?
Yeah, Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, and it has a much higher attention, and yeah, and also it in some ways it's also difficult to fulfill the personalization strategies because if I'm not able to get the information and use the information or keep the information, that I can use it again, say the next time you have the product experience, then personalization does not work. So data issues, data protection, privacy play a large role. That's true. And I mean, maybe adding one point, especially from a loyalty program perspective. I mean, we all know that there are very fixed, let's say, status levels. Yeah, and with the status levels come what are the benefits and the perks that I earn with my status. And there is a huge difference between having no status, having a silver status, and having a gold status, just to name the basic status logic. And you can think about personalizing the status benefits as well. Yeah? And you can
Absolutely.
even think about a cafeteria system where you can say, okay, I have like 100 benefits and perks. Yeah, and with a certain level of status, you are entitled to get 10 out of 100. And with the next level, you are entitled to get 20 out of 100, so to say. But which 10 or which 20 you take out is up to you. And this would be personalization of a status logic. I mean, 10 years ago, Lufthansa did some experiments there, and it just didn't work because of the missing, let's say, process and IT support that is needed behind the scenes to make such a system work. And we talked about technology. Right. I guess we are now in a situation where the technological opportunities are much, much higher than it used to be like 5 or 10 years ago. So maybe this could be one way forward in personalizing your status.
Yes, and I know when we worked together on the outline for the summit, it was important to you to have a track of the conference devoted to the topic of status. I think we're calling it Beyond Status, right? And we've certainly seen an evolution of these programs over the years. We've seen the evolution from status based on how often you fly to status based on how much you spend. We have seen new innovative models such as buying your way up to status, and I think there's a lot of attention and excitement around the topic of status and how we can better leverage those tools to build those relationships with our most valuable flyers. So can you talk a little bit about more what excites you about that topic, and where do you see some of the discussion being focused on the topic of status at the summit this year?
I think the fascinating thing about this track and this topic is that you can start with the question, who really is your best customer? And typically it was very easy. I mean, frequent flyer programs, the name speaks for itself. It's about butt in the seat, so to say. The more you fly, the more value you provide to the company and the higher your status is. And you mentioned basically this turning from the frequent flyer to the frequent buyer, but it is also still locked to flying, because it's how much money do you spend for flying instead of how many miles do you fly. But it's still bound to the frequent flyer logic. You can think about the credit card customers that might possibly contribute more financially to the bottom line than a frequent flyer. But if you think forward, I mean, I think it's not only about those frequent flyers, frequent buyers, and maybe all those credit card customers. Think about the large programs you mentioned in the United States with 100 million members. It's basically really working with the long tail, and not only with, let's say, 5% of status customers that bring you the commercial benefit, but also doing loyalty for and with the long tail of 95% of customers. And this might provide also huge benefit. And I think when we think about the loyalty summit, having a discussion with the specialists and the experts worldwide to get their views, who really is your best customer, and what does this mean for your airline, for your hotel, for your program, and what do you do with it? I think there is so much room to learn and just to see cutting edge what those companies and people are thinking about, preparing, are doing. So I would say this is a very, very exciting part of the summit.
I agree. And just to bring things full circle back towards the beginning of our discussion, as we wrap up, I know you had mentioned earlier that it's very important to think beyond the transaction, and I think that's one of our topic tracks as well for the summit, right? It's beyond transactions. So we have the moment of the transaction where a flyer books a flight or books an overnight stay. That's a key moment in the relationship. But there's so much that goes on before that moment. There's so much that goes after that moment, and there is the anticipation that a loyalty program member might feel as they build up to the point that they're able to redeem those points and miles for a flight or a stay. There have been many psychological studies that show that the customer actually feels a stronger attachment to the brand as they're building up towards earning a reward than they do when they actually redeem for the reward, right? Or in that moment immediately after. So for some final thoughts, what does that mean to you beyond the transaction, and where do you see the opportunity lie, whether it's pre that transaction or post transaction, to help build some of that sustainable loyalty and keep the focus on the customer that you mentioned at the beginning?
Yeah, I think typically loyalty focused on the transaction only, and the purpose was to get another transaction. The next transaction was always the most important one. And basically, the pandemic taught us a very memorable lesson, because there was no transaction anymore, which then means how do you organize your contacts with basically your customer, who is in this moment just cannot be your customer. So this is beyond transaction, to stay in contact with the customer in between, and make him loyal, make him integrated in between, by whatever means you take. Yeah, it might be communication. It might be kind of sometimes some programs experiment with. They follow kind of a group approach, where they say we have segments in our member base who share the same experience and the same values, and why don't we bring them together? Yeah, this is also beyond transaction. So all those emotional aspects and also this personalization aspect comes together in this moment, when you do not only think about the transaction. I mean, we talked a little bit about you have to take care for the long tail. Personalization means you have to look at every customer and his needs. Think about a family who is going to vacation. What might be useful for them? Maybe a separate check-in area where they have their kids with a little opportunity to play, or at least there is room for kids, or somebody taking care for the kids. So this would be would contribute to the personalization of your offer. And maybe it's the loyalty program that makes you become entitled for such services. If you are a loyal customer, if you are maybe not the frequent flyer, but the regular flyer, then you might be entitled for those personalized services, which then also emotionalize you, and they make you more loyalty to this airline or this hotel that offers you this kind of products and services. And this is all beyond transaction, because transaction is typically you buy the flight, you go into the airplane, and you get your miles, and that's it. And everything that comes on top is beyond transaction, and I'm convinced that there is huge potential. And you mentioned full circle. Here again, it comes full circle, because you need processes and structures in IT, capabilities to make this happen. And today we are in a much better situation than 5 or 10 years ago. So we have much more opportunities in differentiating our product, creating personalized offers, having them implemented, and go into contact in between, so that the customer is always, so to say, on speaking terms with you.
And that is what we all want, is for our customers to be on speaking terms with us. So that, I think, is a great note to end on, Harold. We wanted to keep this to about 30 minutes. So I do want to thank you for your time. And as we close, I'd like to remind our listeners and our viewers that Loyalty Summit Europe will happen on the 5th and 6th of June in 2024 in London. You can view our current agenda and speaker roster on loyaltysummit.com. An announcement for general registration and the venue will be happening very soon. So until then, save the date, follow us on LinkedIn, join our email list, keep abreast of the updates. And Harold, I'd like to thank you again for participating in this Loyalty Leaders Livecast. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again in person in London this summer.
Rix, thanks for having me. And one final word from me. Just come to London and visit the event. I mean, there are so many incredible speakers. The lineup is really, really fascinating, and they will bring much more information than I can bring over in this 25 or 30 minutes. It will be a great and fascinating summit, and I'm really, really, really excited about being there and seeing you all there. Thank you.
And I'm as excited as well. So that is it for today's Loyalty Livecast. I'm Rick Ferguson on behalf of Harold and myself. I'd like to thank you for watching and listening, and we will see you in London. Have a good day, everybody.